One of the biggest questions people have when they think about their retirement is, have I saved enough money to retire? Well, a very generic way of answering that question is something called the 4% rule. What this rule says is that if you withdraw 4% each year from your overall retirement savings, you'll never run out of money. So let me give you an example. Let's say I've saved $1 million. This rule says that I can withdraw 4% or $40,000 a year, and I won't run out of money in retirement. Now, this rule is very generic and it makes a lot of assumptions that don't apply to most people. So, number one, the 4% rule does not account for taxation. Okay. So if you have a lot of money in retirement accounts like 401ks or IRAs, that money's never been taxed. So as soon as you start to withdraw from those accounts, those dollars are now taxed. So it doesn't answer the question of how to withdraw from those accounts in a tax efficient manner. Number two, it assumes how your money is invested. Okay, so actually it assumes that 50% of your money is invested in stocks and the other 50% is invested in bonds. But very rarely is that the case. A lot of people have what we call different asset allocations. Maybe you own other investments like real estate, or maybe you own stocks and bonds, but you're more conservative. So you have 70% in bonds and 30% in stocks. Well, that's where the 4% rule starts to break down. Another area, it assumes level spending through retirement. Now, like we call the 60s and 70s the go-go years. You're typically spending more money because you're traveling and doing the things you've always wanted to do. And then 70s and 80s, you start to slow down. We call those the slow-go years. And then 80s and 90s, the no-go years, right? So very rarely is your spending in retirement level, okay? Now, final point, the 4% rule assumes you're going to live 30 years in retirement. But if you're in the camp where you're going to retire early, like maybe in your 50s, well, maybe 30 years isn't enough if you live past that point. So again, another area where that starts to break down. The way I view the 4% rule, it's a great way to think about how much money you need to save, while you're still working, but is most certainly not a holistic financial retirement plan.